Hello, and welcome to another episode of Training Bytes. My name is Mike Gibb from accountsrecovery.net, and I'm thrilled to bring you this series with Mary Shores from Mary Shores Communications. Mary Shores is a second-generation agency owner, best-selling author, and creator of the Collection Advantage online program, which is designed to help collectors create and execute high-converting scripting to increase their cash flow and decrease complaints. Joining Mary today is Tracy Montour, the Director of Marketing at Arbeit. Tracy's responsible for all the B2B marketing programs and is part of the company's executive leadership team. Mary, take it from here.
Hey, Tracy, it is so nice to see you again today. I have been really looking forward to this conversation about recruiting because you and I did a webinar a couple months ago for ACA, and I thought it was just a wealth of information. I got several emails and messages on LinkedIn where people were really happy about all the information that we put together. So I thought this was a perfect follow-up conversation to have. And I just love to get your take on what you're seeing with respect to like hiring and turnover, specifically in this industry. What are the challenges that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, we're hearing from our clients all the time. It's pretty much, I've been with the company at Arbeit about 2 years, and I've been hearing it pretty much nonstop. The people are struggling with hiring and retaining their employees. And after making an initial investment in them, not getting a return on investment from their hiring. It takes a lot of time and effort to hire. And this is something that people in every industry deal with. But in collections, we're very focused on a return on investment and having employees, reliable employees really is part of that. And I think, unfortunately, every collection agency out there can probably relate.
Yeah. I certainly can relate because when I was first starting out in the industry, and it was in 1998, my first several years, I really struggled with bringing in employees. And not only that, but I remember how disheartening and how financially devastating it would be if I would hire people, especially like collectors, and they didn't last even 3 months or 6 months. And I kind of started to feel like the reason behind it was a lot to do with that. Maybe they didn't really want to be in collections in the first place. Maybe they were just looking for a job and not really looking for a long-term job. But I definitely remember those years of just feeling so defeated when I couldn't get that done. And so I know when we did the webinar, we took a look at a lot that's going on, and like you did some really cool research on the reasons people leave their job. And what I thought it would be really fun to do is to take each one of those bullet points and then talk about what's the solution for that. So one of them is starting with, well, let's start this off right. Why do you think there's such a struggle to attract and retain talent in collections?
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of reasons, but people, like you said, don't grow up and want to be a debt collector as their dream job. They're looking for, employment that will help them meet their goals, but often it seems like collectors don't really understand how the work that they're doing is contributing to something. They don't feel appreciated. They maybe don't have pride in their work, which is unfortunate because, people have a certain perception of what the debt collection industry is. But at the end of the day, we're helping people and, improving their lives. I think that people can find pride in it. And especially, in my experience, it's not really about the work that you're doing, but the people that you're with, your boss, your coworkers, and having, sort of a tribe at the office as well. So that might be an element that's missing.
One of the statistics that was in that webinar was talking about how only 40% of the workforce reports knowing their company's goals, strategies, and tactics. That's one that is really interesting. And I can tell you that one of the things that's worked for us to overcome that is we really get people involved in what we're doing. And the way that we do that is I've created what I call a business boot camp. And so in business boot camp, which is about the first 3 weeks to 6 weeks of someone's employment at my agency, we literally teach them all about the industry. We teach them all the different jobs. So say someone gets hired as a data entry job. Well, we're going to teach them all the different snippets of the job so that they understand the role of skip tracing, or they understand credit reporting, or they understand some of the things that go on in the client services. We actually even teach every single employee how to collect money, because I feel like if you're going to work in this industry, that's the basic skill set that you need. Is you need to be able to understand how collections work. You need to understand how to negotiate and how to communicate with people, because we want everyone in our office to be able to do that. And then another one of the really interesting statistics that, by the way, Tracy's the one who researched these and found them, is that it seems like most people don't actually leave because they don't like their job, but it's more likely 75% of employees voluntarily quit because they're quitting their boss, not their job. I found that very interesting. And then the other one is that 92% of employees would likely stay with their job if their bosses showed more empathy. And I just am blown away by those statistics, because I have always said that in order to be a leader, there's some certain qualities that are very important. And years ago, I wrote an ebook called Leadership Essentials. And one of the things that I realized was that to be a good leader, one of the things that was most important was for me to take ownership when I myself make a mistake. And also, that people are hard on themselves. So this is an industry where there's a lot of pressure to be perfect. And so someone can make a mistake and have a lot of pressure on them. And so I think that we need to be just mindful of how people are feeling. And especially when the leadership themselves is taking ownership for something, then those people can feel comfortable taking ownership for something. So just curious, your thoughts on, from the top down perspective, like leadership down, how do we create better cultures, or what are things that you've seen to create a great culture?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a struggle that I've experienced, not feeling like I've been understood or appreciated, or not really understanding like what's the value of the work I'm doing, or, that my boss didn't really care about me. At Arbeit, we, focus on prioritizing people just as much as profits. And I think that makes a huge difference. I can speak from my experience as a leader. I take a lot of time. I have a small team. There's just 3 of us on the team, but I take a lot of time to understand, who they are as people and what motivates them, what demotivates them, and making sure that I understand what's important to them so that I can help, help them understand the value of their work through the lens of what's important to them. But also getting them like directly involved in things, and sharing information and being transparent, and not like withholding information. Of course, there's always information that's private or not available to certain, groups of employees, but sharing as much as you can to help them understand the work that they're doing is having a business impact, and they're not just coming to work and punching the clock every day and just kind of letting life pass them by. Because I'm pretty sure there's no worse feeling than that. I've had jobs like that when working in a call center when I first got out of college, or doing data entry jobs, and you just feel like your life is almost meaningless, and you don't really care about your job at all. It's just a means to an end. And once you start finding like purpose or passion, to an extent, and going to work, or just enjoyment, I think that makes a world of a difference. And having like a leader or a boss that understands you and is willing to, adapt to you, when no one's perfect. And especially throughout the pandemic, I mean, we're all going through tons of different experiences. But I think, at work, we all just have to show more that we're human. I'm a very emotional person. I've cried in front of my employees. I've, shown them that I've made mistakes. And I think at the end of the day, like, it helps them understand, like, we're all trying to figure this out together, and it's not like you versus me. We're all on a team. We all have the same goal. We work at the same company, and we all want it to be successful.
You know what, Tracy, I just think that there is absolutely so much wisdom in everything that you just said. And what's really important for me in this moment, in this topic, is for whatever, if this is something you struggle with, like, listening to what Tracy just said is so important, because she just communicated probably what anybody under the age of 35 is truly looking for. And that we're going through this paradigm shift. And so, like, I'm a Gen Xer. Okay. So I love talking about generation gaps and stuff, but I'm a Gen Xer. And I have found that a lot of people around my age, I'm not trying to call anybody out, but it's kind of that, grew up in the 80s, dog eat dog, business power world. And everybody, wants to have a lot of success, and success was always put as like, that was the trophy that you wanted, and I feel like the younger generations coming in, and honestly, this is a beautiful thing. Like, if we listen, that what they're looking for from us is a different level quality of life, partly because they watched us work our asses off all the time. I mean, just tell me if I'm hot or cold there, because if
Oh, definitely. And I've been in the situation where I've had to work my butt off just to do the bare minimum, like, just to, meet the minimum requirements of my job. And it's not a good feeling. I think, I'm a millennial, we want work-life balance. We want happiness and fulfillment. And of course, work is part of that. And yeah, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, watched my mom as a single mom work hard, pretty much to sustain the same quality of life, not really move up the ladder or get anywhere my whole life. And it's not something good to watch. And it's not, everybody wants success, but I think there's probably a better way.
And there is a better way. And so I'll leave some of these things that I have found that I've been doing. And I just think that there's so many things that you can do that go above and beyond. And I think that one of them is, it's time to really, make a commitment to the people that we're hiring, that we're investing in them. And I do this when I hire someone. I just hired someone like 3 weeks ago. And, I told her, I said, when I bring you in, I said, I'm hiring you. I need at least a 2-year commitment. And I actually tell her why. And then they can think about it and, like, you know what, that makes sense. But I don't expect you to stay in a job for 2 years that you don't like. So here's what I'm willing to do. I'm going to invest in you. I'm going to invest in your training. I'm going to invest in your development. And then I actually do all of those things. And when they're in that business boot camp, I mean, we train them way more beyond the boot camp, but we're actually watching. And especially when we hire like entry level positions, young people, we're watching, because I want to know what their strengths and what their weaknesses are. Because as soon as I can identify that, I can start having conversations with them about it. And you can really, give them that work supply that's going to make them happier, and that's going to, like, celebrate what their strengths are, instead of trying to be on the struggle bus. My son calls it the struggle bus, but instead of being on the struggle bus, like, challenging through a day of work that's like drudgery, because nobody likes to do that. And I find that just those little adjustments make a world of difference. When people know that you're watching them, when people know that you're watching them, but not as like big brother, but you're watching them because you're paying attention to what their strengths are, so that you can help pioneer the future path with them. I just think it makes a huge difference. So that's one of my biggest, like, things. If I could tell someone, would be take ownership. Tracy is saying, get to know your team, like, know what drives them. Some of the things that I've done in the past is, suggest to people that you can even take that love languages quiz with your team, because when you kind of find out what people appreciate as far as their communication, then it's so easy to give that to them. Some people don't necessarily want to be taken to lunch, but they're a words of affirmation person. So they want to be told that you appreciate the work that they do. It's the simplest thing.
Yeah, on our team, we actually do a lot of those different personality quizzes like Enneagram or the Myers-Briggs, just to get to know each other. For example, I'm an extremely direct person, and I know that's probably not, some people don't prefer to be communicated with that way. So it can, be almost abrasive if you don't know me. And I think a lot of the challenges that come with, for example, employees leaving because they don't like their boss, it can have to do with misunderstanding or miscommunication. There's been times where I've said something and I had no intentions of having it seem, aggressive or abrasive, but the person listening took it that way. It's because that's how they communicate. And I think the more you understand and have empathy for your employees or your coworkers and your teammates, like the better, things are, the better you can communicate. And then you can just focus less on bureaucracy or different processes and just focus on work. And I mean, at the end of the day, that's what everyone wants. No one wants to come to work and deal with drama or deal with a boss they don't like because they're always talking to them in a certain way. So I think just having those conversations and spending the small amount of time to learn about each other, and also, and like you said, making investments in your employees and showing them like, I value you and I want you to be here long term and like grow your career. And a lot of traditional industries that I found, they don't like investing in their employees because they're afraid they're going to leave. You make an investment in them to train them to do certain things or have certain skills, and then they'll get a better job somewhere else. I mean, obviously that's going to happen, but the best case scenario is you have the best performing team you can have. And I think that's like a risk that's definitely worth taking.
One of the things that my friend Nora Golden, who's in the industry, pointed out, she works with Jack Gordon, was she was saying to me that she's like, Mary, one of the reasons that I think your training is so valuable is because when you can get people, like especially collectors that are new, she's like, when you're a new collector and you're seeing the veteran collectors bringing in all these big bonuses and it's going to take you forever to get there, then the person's more likely going to be a flight risk. But if we can, through proper training in their first, then their onboarding process. Onboarding to me is really like the first 3 months. But when you're onboarding them, the more that you can invest in them so that they can make that bonus, like the first month, the second month, or the third month, so that they can feel like they're going to be successful at the job. Because one of the last things, if you're hiring someone as a collector and they're not performing and their money, reflects that, obviously, then they feel defeated on the inside and they don't have that natural motivation to come to work. What they feel is motivation to find another job.
Right.
And so definitely, training, but teaching them the specific skill sets that they'll need to be successful for their job. And Tracy, thank you so very much for being on this Training Bytes. I've told you many times, but I have to tell you, you are one of my favorite, fascinating, new-ish faces in the industry, because I know you've been around a little while now, but I'm so proud of you, and it's so fun to talk to you today.
Thank you so much. And it's always nice talking to you, Mary, and thanks for having me on.